So this is absolutely insane. ICE, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ended the life of an American citizen today, and essentially, there's so many moving pieces to this. We're gonna watch the video. We're gonna see what actually happened. There were a lot of people at this specific spot videotaping what happened, and there are a couple different angles to it. There's even a picture of half the face of the ICE agent who did this. This is absolutely insane. ICE is the modern day Gestapo. There's no way around it at this particular point. They fit all of the metrics of being the modern day Gestapo. ICE does. And one thing that I really want people to understand is that just because they are the modern day Gestapo doesn't necessarily mean that they could do whatever they want. But one of the tenets of the Gestapo was that they worked with impunity. And honestly, I feel like with what happened today, and we're going to watch the video in a moment. What I feel happened today, and if you could like the live, I don't think anything's going to become of this. Honestly, we've seen this administration. They're big into saying no, or not showing up for court, or not listening to court orders. They're big into all of that. Let's watch this video and let's get down to the bottom of it. This is honestly, like, I can't believe this.
ICE-related shooting. This now, the first time that we're really hearing some more details from law enforcement.
Yeah, we know that the call was made maybe about 10 o'clock this morning, so just about 3 hours or so ago. In that press conference, we did get some more information about this woman who was, we know, at this point shot and killed by ICE agents. We learned that she is a 37-year-old white woman. She appeared to be in the vehicle alone, is what the police chief said. But the spouse has made it to the hospital. But we probably should take you back just a little bit about just some of the chain of events that have happened now that we have some of that information confirmed.
And interestingly, we really still haven't learned what the initial call was, why ICE place, who they may have been looking for. But we know that while ICE agents were there, according to Mayor Fry, there were about a dozen or so plus agents there. And this sort of play out. So just a warning to those who may not want to see this. You can see the vehicle there. That's law enforcement pulling up in the pickup.
And it is the Honda Pilot that we should be focused on here. It's about a purplish reddish color here. So let's take a look.
Agent walking up. And then there's another agent. I don't know if you could, that one right there.
Yeah, three agents involved. One was kind of closer to the front of the vehicle. The other kind of pulled on that driver's side door handle.
Yeah.
There.
Let's rewind that. Let's rewind that and watch it again. This time I do want to slow it down a little bit and a viewpoint, or not necessarily a better viewpoint, but like, let's watch it on a slower pace.
That's law enforcement pulling up in the pickup.
And it is the Honda Pilot that we should be focused on here. It's about a purplish reddish color here. So let's take a look.
Agent walking up. And then there's another agent. I don't know if you can see that one right there.
Three agents involved. One was kind of closer to the front of the vehicle. The other kind of pulled on that driver's side door handle.
Yeah.
There
So again, there's no audio here. We don't know what's being said. We don't know really anything else about this woman, other than we know that she was not the target of the initial investigation. That was confirmed by the police chief. But there are some other angles of this as well that are being looked at. So that's kind of one pass of the video. And again, right. Okay. Thanks for letting us know. Sorry. So there is some audio to this, and if you go online, you can see. So now you can see the vehicle is crashed, and according to law enforcement here.
So that officer right there, that's the officer that did it. That's the officer that ended that lady's life. In the audio, I wish I could find the original video. Hold on. I'm going to see if we could find the original video.
Important. I'm a
Original
huge
video,
advocate
the
for mental
lady
health
is
on this page. You
at
guys
him
already
like
know,
shame,
especially
shame.
as
And
someone
that's
that
the officer,
struggles
and he's going
with
like this,
that.
like, let's get
Currently,
out of here.
BetterHelp actually connected me with a therapist who
You know,
is
he ended this
trained
lady's
to
life.
listen and offer.
Following breaking news in Minneapolis, where city officials confirm a shooting occurred, reportedly involving a federal agent and a civilian this
can you
morning.
like the live?
You
Let's
see
like
the
the
live
live.
pictures
Let's
right
see if we can get
there.
some
Our Whitney
more
Wild
people
is
in here.
there
This is
on the ground.
crazy.
Whitney,
What's
tell
happening
us what's
in
happening
Minnesota?
right now.
Absolutely
Dana, we're in the
egregious,
heart of
absolutely
Minneapolis. We're here
unnecessary.
on East 35th and Portland Avenue. And let me show you first. I'll show you who's on scene.
You know, this
That
is
is
what's
Mayor
happening
Jacob
now
Wright.
in
He's the mayor of
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. To
ICE
the side on
killed
the left side of your
someone.
screen, that is Police Chief
37-year-old
Brian
woman, it
O'Hara.
looks
There
like.
is an enormous law
We don't know
enforcement
much
presence
about
here
her.
from multiple different jurisdictions.
Except
Our
that she was
photographer is going to show
37
you what
years
the crowd
old.
looks like here, Dana. Mayor Fry is
The
now
video
leaving.
shows she's trying to
I
drive
think you're probably
away
starting
from
to
the
hear
police.
people yelling
And
to
one of the
him, but he
officers
is
on the
now
side
leaving.
just lets
He
loose on
had
her
spoken
and
with some people
fires
on the edge of the
on her
crowd
and ends
when he
her
first
life.
arrived. According to a man who had video of it, he did not come back to the crowd. Now
honestly,
a
this
crowd
is
is following
crazy.
him down the street.
ICE is
What
getting
we're
out of
looking at right
hand.
now is the law
Their
enforcement
tactics are getting very
response to
heavy-handed.
Minneapolis police.
It's recently
You
come
see
out that
the Hennepin County
the ICE
Sheriff's
officers that
Department.
they're
We've
hiring
also seen U.S. Marshals here.
aren't
We've seen Customs and
capable
Border
of
Patrol.
passing physicals.
But let me bring you up to speed
They're
with
not.
what
They're
we
very
know.
unhinged. They seem to be
As
very
you
unhinged.
said, we know that there was a shooting involving federal
The
law
Washington Post
enforcement near
interviewed
East
people
34th
saying
Street
that
and
they just
Portland
want to become
Avenue.
ICE agents to
That was
beat
according to the
people up.
city of Minneapolis. We do not yet know for sure what
You know,
the
this is
extent
the
of
America
any
we live in.
injuries
This
are or
ICE
what
is the modern day
prompted this.
Gestapo.
Minnesota Governor
And
Tim
there's
Walz
very
has weighed
few
in, saying
ways
my public
around
safety
that.
team is working
And I
to
don't
gather
use that
information on an
tongue-in-cheek. I don't
ICE-related
use that,
shooting this
you
morning.
know,
Again, Mayor Jacob
as a
Fry
way
is
of
here. This is all in the context of
demonizing
this
ICE.
ramped-up immigration
Even though
enforcement
I think they
that
should be demonized,
DHS
but
has
saying that they're
been
modern day
touting. They say
Gestapo,
this is the
it's
largest
not-
immigration
it's
crackdown to
literally
date.
what they're
2,000
doing
agents
right
spread
now.
throughout the Twin Cities. This has been going on for a couple of days now. We know that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was here in the Minneapolis area yesterday.
And go ahead and like the live if
what
you
we see
can. If you
now
want to leave a
is
comment
this
or
real
chat,
peak moment
something in the
here
chat, go
where,
for it as well.
Based on our understanding, there was
You know,
a
this is
shooting
honestly
involving
crazy
federal law
what's
enforcement
happening
here,
in
as
Minneapolis right now.
Governor Tim Walz said, involving an ICE
obviously,
agent. We are
we're gonna
learning
wait for the governor to get
trying to
involved
learn as much as we
and see
can.
what the governor
But
has
let me
to
just
say about
get
this.
you another picture of
He's
the
recently
crowd here,
announced that he's not
because
running for
this is a
re-election.
city where these
So,
George Floyd
you know, when it
riots
comes to,
are not far in the
what's
rearview
happening,
mirror. And what I keep hearing from
you know,
people in
it's-
this area
at
is
the end
they
of the term,
say,
he doesn't have
if
to
you
deal
thought
with
that
any
was
of this
bad,
anymore.
this city is about to
And of course, this is the same city where George Floyd was killed.
That Minneapolis police are
So,
doing right now,
you know,
is to try to keep this calm and not.
I don't know if they're going to show
because
the video of what happened, but I really would love to. I want to show you guys the video of what happened, simply because it's necessary. I think it gives you a good context. But let's look and see what the witness has to say.
Monday.com,
Witnesses
the
on
opposite of
scene
any work platform we tried in the
saw
past.
this, and
Tried
I
other
really
work
wanna,
management
really
platforms,
would love
not naming
to-
names.
And kind of look over this way instead of at the phone.
Sure. My name is Aiden Perzana.
Can you spell those for me?
Yeah, AIDANPERZ is in zebra, ANA.
Okay. So just tell me in general, I mean, what did you see out here this morning?
Well, I have a 1 month at home, so I was just getting up. He had woken me up, and was getting dressed when I heard all of the horns and the whistles. And I'd heard horns pass through before as people follow vehicles through the city, but they stayed. They kept going, and so I figured whatever was happening right outside. So I started watching through the window. There was a red Honda Pilot, maroon, but there were two people in fatigues, ICE agents, presumably. One was by the passenger side of the vehicle, one was by the driver's side of the vehicle. And there was a handful of black and white SUVs, license plates on some of them, front license plates removed, parked sort of kittywampus in the street. And I watched as a third person in full camo come and pull several times on the door handle, at which point the red vehicle reversed a few feet and started driving around, and the person who was by the driver's side originally, not the man who pulled on the door, but who was originally there, shot through the driver's side window 3 times, and the car,
If you guys could please like the
drove
live.
down the street a little bit more and then swerved into a car and then ultimately a telephone pole.
Okay. I think that's really all, because I'm not trying to get you to comment on that. You just saw this. Did you see an ambulance come? Did you?
An ambulance came a few minutes later. There was some delay getting the ambulance to the vehicle because of the number of ICE vehicles in the street, and sort of they slowly moved their SUVs and trucks out of the way. Somebody wearing a camo and a vest that just said police, I think they're ICE, but no identification. Grabbed an orange sort of OtterBox style case and ran up to the vehicle, and they pulled the person out and onto the boulevard before the ambulance got there.
When you saw it happen, was that vehicle still moving? Was it at all going towards an agent at that point? Or
So the agents had been on either side, so they just backed up a few feet and then drove forward.
Okay, I want to see if we could find the video. Give me 1 second. It's interesting to see. Here we go. This is it, I believe. This is Fox 9 Minneapolis.
I would like you to raise your hand if prior to 4 you had never sold travel professionally.
We provide.
Wanted to check in with him and Paul. I think you can look at that video,
This is what we were
and
watching. It
clearly
looks like before.
different people are going
You
to look
guys
at that
could like
same
the
video
live,
and come away with
thumbs up the live.
different takes on it.
They sure are, no doubt, Amy and Simone. This was a witnessed incident, and there are several different videos from slightly different angles. So clearly people were out there videotaping what was occurring. I know you just played the video without audio. I have in the newsroom listened to it, viewed it, and I think as the mayor and the police chief filled in some of the holes during their news conference, it appears to be a woman, again, an observer, if you will, or certainly someone who was perhaps they had their car perpendicular in the roadway. It appeared that officers went up, ordered her to move and ordered her to open the door. And that is when she took off. There is an agent, the ICE agent, who eventually pulls the trigger several times in the roadway. And this is where, depending on how you look at it, depending what agency is looking at it, you certainly heard the mayor called DHS's version of events BS. There is an agent in the roadway. There's an open window. Car sort of gets moving, peels out. I want to be careful with my verbiage. Makes a right turn. The agent opened fires into the window. That car rolls down the road just a little bit further, and that is where it crashes into another vehicle, and they eventually get medical care. And as we now know, the 37-year-old woman perished. She died from the gunshot injuries from that incident. So there is video. The investigation will obviously play out. And Ryan in our booth wants to tell me now that we can play it with some audio. Why don't we roll that for you now?
No! Shame!
Yeah, so this is the original video.
And there it goes. We're just going to play the very initial, seconds or so there. But there's this apparent effort. Perhaps ICE was moving down the road. You could see that one, I believe it's a pickup truck. Yeah, the pickup truck. That's ICE trying to get down the road. The woman again begins with a car in a perpendicular position. I don't know how exactly that would have happened, but she did appear to perhaps be blocking ICE's progress towards a target, towards a destination. I don't know. The agents got out. They were angry. They ordered her to leave. They reached for her door a couple of times, and that is when she kind of peels out to the right, and then there is an agent right there who opens fire into the window, and she is subsequently killed. So this video will be closely scrutinized by people on all sides, investigators. And the attorney's office has chimed in with commentary about wanting a local investigation. We heard during the news conference that the FBI with the BCA will take a look at the investigation, the use of force. Authorities at that news conference didn't appear to know exactly what could transpire on a potential charging decision when you have a federal agent working an operation in the city of Minneapolis. But no doubt, Amy, Simone, this was very much a witnessed event, a documented event. And now, whether you call it finger pointing, clearly there's anger. There was an emphasis from the city to get ICE agents out of there.
Right.
They were the targets of the protest that quickly developed around there. Karen Scullin was out in it. Chemical irritants needed to be used to at least push back some of the gathering crowd. And it didn't make the news last night, but we had in our newsroom took a look at an incident yesterday where we now understand there was a car crash where ICE perhaps was pursuing somebody out in Eden Prairie, and there was a car crash from a fleeing a target, we believe a target of the ICE investigation.
Go ahead and
there
like
was
the
a
live if you can.
mash up at an intersection
Appreciate
there.
it.
And I saw some of the aftermath video from witnesses who quickly turned their disdain and anger and angst towards the ICE agents. People very much concerned over these last several weeks since the surge began about the way ICE conducted its business. You know, the chief warned that this day could happen, and clearly now the city of Minneapolis is responding and reeling from what took place there in the Powderhorn neighborhood earlier this morning.
Yeah, that's what's so ironic is, Police Chief Brian O'Hara just hosting his, year in review meeting yesterday for 2025. And he literally, in that same press conference, just said his fear is that something of this nature, of this capacity, could happen. As we know, we have seen 2,000 agents deployed here to the Twin Cities, and now this happens here today.
And when you don't have a system of communication, right? It's a federal operation, and there are agents coming in from other states. We know just from talking with some police chiefs that in Minneapolis and St. Paul, that there are local federal agents that they know and they work with often, but then others are coming in. Some other ICE agents are coming in from others. They don't know them, and there is not an infrastructure of communication intentionally by many, including cities like Minneapolis. So it kind of felt like a recipe for disaster is what, the police chief and mayor have been saying, Paul.
And the city officials have sort of made the point that, this isn't necessarily in their minds about safety. There's no collaboration. Do we need to chase people down the street? These are, perhaps people who have entered this country illegally. Are there other ways to go about an operation to take the dangerous ones off the street? Seeing them at courthouses, at immigration check-ins, at visiting them at their homes, and this is what city officials worried about. But we don't know exactly what was taking place this morning, but there was some operation where ICE, people are being, you follow them on social media, people are literally, shadowing ICE as they leave their headquarters at the Whipple building right by the airport, Bloomington, that South Minneapolis little corridor near the airport. People are following them. People are watching them. People are watching their every move. Wouldn't shock you to see somebody perhaps try to block a roadway if they felt someone was trying to get away from an ICE traffic stop, if that is in fact what occurred this morning. It's creating dangerous situations is the argument from City Hall. I don't think this is a proper way to go about an immigration enforcement. And today it is the nightmare ending that the police chief has spoken about, that the mayor worried about, and now this. And then we'll have to see how the community responds. I think getting ICE out of there from what they're calling a crime scene now, right?
Do you think ICE is
a crime
leave
scene now? There's an active investigation into law enforcement's use of force. It's a new territory, certainly for the folks involved there. So the attorney himself didn't quite know exactly sort of the legal processes here that take place. The FBI and the BCA now probing the shooting itself. I think it's important to reiterate there are videos. There seems to be videos from several different angles, and the shooting itself. And then, Fox 9 has chosen to show it, sparingly and perhaps without the audio because there is, obviously a woman killed in the frames and vulgar language left and right. And it's just a difficult day now for that Powderhorn neighborhood. We were just fine.
I want to see if there's any other eyewitnesses to this, because this is crazy. Let's see. This is from CBS News.
Good afternoon, and thank you for watching CBS News 24/7. I'm Lindsay Reiser. One person is dead following a clash between federal agents and protesters in Minneapolis. That is according to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, DHS says ICE was conducting targeted operations in the southern part of the city when several people began blocking agents' cars. The department claims the victim, a 37-year-old woman, was one of the violent rioters who weaponized her vehicle and tried to run over agents. According to the Minneapolis police chief, she was in her vehicle, blocking the roadway. Federal law enforcement approached her on foot. She began to drive off. At least 2 shots were fired, and the vehicle then crashed. The mayor of Minneapolis says that she suffered a gunshot wound to her head and was pronounced dead at the hospital. And he disputes that she used her vehicle as a weapon and said, quote, the narrative that this was done in self-defense is a garbage narrative. He also said, ICE, get the bleep out of Minneapolis. DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs says the ICE agent, fearing for his life, shot and killed the alleged perpetrator. Mayor Fry of Minneapolis says he does not have the identity of the agent at this time. Investigation will need to be done. When asked whether the state will be able to file any charges, the death comes amid an influx of 2,000 law enforcement members into the Twin Cities metro area. The city's mayor is calling, as I mentioned, for those agents to leave and saying that they are trying to solve a problem they created themselves and causing chaos and distrust. CBS News correspondent Chanel Call is following this for us. Chanel, there is a plethora of video on social media. Of course, we as a news organization are going through that and seeing what we can verify. We don't know exactly which videos Mayor Fry saw, which leads him to say that this was not self-defense. But what can you tell us about the videos you're seeing?
Yeah, there is a lot of video showing up on social media, Lindsay, and some of it is purporting to show the moment that those shots rang out in that South Minneapolis neighborhood. Again, we are working to confirm and to verify that video before we can share it with you. But I do have 2 new videos that have been verified from our CBS News teams that I can show with you right now that show the aftermath of that shooting. So take a look at this. You can see that there were ICE agents sort of lining the snowy street. And then you see them kind of pulling out this person from the car. They seem to be then performing CPR on this person. Of course, the camera is going back and forth. You can imagine this was quite a chaotic scene. But at the end of these videos, 2 things are true. You see them carrying this person away on their hands and feet. We also heard from a witness on the scene, Lindsay. I want to play for you part of that interview. Take a listen.
They were not allowing EMS to come with in timely manner. They were DHS and them. They were blocking the roads and not letting EMS come with time and the ambulance. They just kept the roads blocked for a very long time to the point the body had to literally get carried out the way it did.
shooting. That's still what we're working to determine and to verify right
Tragedy
now.
lives
But we
uninterrupted.
did get a couple of different accounts of what happened. So let's start with what DHS is saying unfolded here in Minneapolis today. I'll share my screen with you so you can see this, and I'll read you part of this social media post, Lindsay. It says, ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when riders began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent riders weaponized her vehicle, they say, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them. It goes on to say that this is characterized by DHS as an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement and safety of the public, fired defensive shots. So a couple of key things coming out of here. We know there were multiple shots. That is what DHS is confirming. And then later on in this statement, they also say the alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased, also adding that the ICE officers who were hurt, they say. Now, I was talking to you about how we're getting varied accounts of exactly what happened, because we also just moments ago, Lindsay, heard from the city's mayor. We heard from local law enforcement, and they have a very different account of what happened. In fact, local law enforcement just moments ago said it doesn't appear that the person, quote, rammed anyone. The mayor, Lindsay, even calling the narrative that this was done in self-defense, quote, a garbage narrative.
And also, we're learning a little bit more about the woman. As I mentioned, she's 37. Senator Smith says that she's an American citizen. And we also did learn in that press conference that they say that she was not a target of those ICE raids. I'm trying to find the exact quote that they used here.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to determine exactly what she was doing in the country and her nationality, all of that. But I can tell you that her neighbors did come out in the moments following that shooting. Obviously,
They just said she was an American citizen. What do you mean? What was she doing in the country? They just, yo, you can't make this shit up. They're trying so hard to make this lady the fall person.
they were there, they heard those loud bangs, and that is what created those clashes between police and protesters. There was a large group that gathered on this very residential and snowy street. And Lindsay, that's really when the chaos began. And then eventually that is what led to tear gas, or those chemical irritants being used by police and law enforcement there to try to disperse people who'd get in reaction to that shooting.
All right, Chanel, stay with us in case we need to go back to you. Thank you so much. Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga joins us now from Minneapolis. And Nicole, you are in the region. You're based in Washington, D.C., but you're there because you went on a ride along with DHS. You had an exclusive interview with DHS Secretary Noem. What can you tell us from what you've been hearing from witnesses?
Well, we just spoke to a witness who was literally on the street, catty corner to where this all played out. She had been filming, and she told us that she saw an enormous presence of ICE vehicles. They were unmarked cars. She described what you can see in the video that is circulated of the incident, that red SUV sort of backing up, looking like it might have been parking, agents approaching. And then as she was passing the vehicle, she heard pop, 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 3 distinct pops, and she knew right away that it was gunfire, immediately turned around and saw a crash. And then in the ensuing moments, there were ICE officers who responded and deployed tear gas, is what one eyewitness told us. Another eyewitness told us that they ran out afterwards. They saw law enforcement surrounding the individual in the car, begin to perform CPR, and eventually an ambulance came. At that point, that eyewitness told us it was clear that the individual had died because law enforcement was not rushing around her, so likely pronounced dead at the scene. I will tell you, having embedded with ICE law enforcement yesterday, having covered Homeland Security for a while now, this is an enormous law enforcement deployment that we have seen in the Minneapolis area. More than 2,100 federal agents from ICE and Homeland Security investigations. It's more than New York City. It's more than Los Angeles. That's more than Chicago. And we've also been talking not only with law enforcement, but with residents here in Minneapolis in the area, members of the Somali American community who are disturbed, who are scared, neighbors here on the street telling us they knew this was not an if, but when, that this is their worst nightmare. and that if the Trump administration's intent is to promote public safety, this is doing the exact opposite. Now, we saw DHS put out a statement claiming that ICE officers fired because, in particular, one ICE agent fired because they believed their life was at risk and that they were defending both their own personal safety and the safety of other officers. That statement goes on to include some statistics, an 8,000% increase in threats to ICE
We are an
personnel
occupied nation.
under the
We
Trump
certainly
administration
are.
compared to the Biden
Listen.
administration. And it speaks to that ongoing tension. But if you look at the video, and we're still learning new details, a much different scene played out. And we have seen FBI personnel on the scene. They will be taking the lead looking into this officer-involved shooting, as is customary. Behind me, there is protests that are happening. You can see hundreds of people. Earlier, we witnessed and we're experiencing tear gas as canisters were deployed by ICE officers. We saw people choking, vomiting on the streets. This neighborhood is described to us by folks who live here as being very calm, very friendly. There's a school nearby. Everyone we've spoken to is just devastated that this is happening in their community.
All right, Nicole, thank you very much.
We collectively are going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible. To the family, I'm so deeply sorry. There's nothing that I can say right now that's going to make you or your relatives or the friends of the victim feel any better. There were, I believe, 2 Minneapolis police officers that responded and were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The second was to get ICE off of the scene. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult situation even more problematic, and one that, yes, they created themselves. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave. It's on you to make sure that further damage, further loss of life and injury is not done. We're going to be working towards justice as quickly as we possibly can right now. And justice is what we've all got to get. Next, a message to our community. Look, we all know that the agenda of this Trump administration is to create chaos. Let us respond right now with our best versions of self. This is a moment where all of us in Minneapolis and beyond, we can rise to the occasion. We can show them who we are. We can show them the kind of courage, bravery, love, and compassion that makes Minneapolis, Minneapolis, and that makes America, America. We are better than a bunch of ICE agents being deployed to cities around the country and ripping apart families and communities. We're better than that. And so we are going to meet that hate with love. We are going to meet that despair with hope. We are going to meet that injustice with constitutional justice ourselves. And we're going to make sure that in this very difficult moment, we do not take the bait that these ICE agents are trying to create and that the federal government, to be clear, wants. They want us to respond in a way that creates a military occupation in our city. They want an excuse to come in and show the kind of force that will create more chaos and more despair. Let's not let them. Let's rise to this occasion. Let's show them something far more beautiful than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity of purpose, of love, and the courage of our conviction. Our conviction, to be clear, is rock solid, and it is for our neighbors, all of our neighbors. It's for people who have lived here for 80 years. It is for new immigrants who have made this city a better place. That's the kind of love that we're going to show up with right now. If you're angry, I get it. I am too. If you're feeling that kind of despair, it's understandable. Let's show them who we can be. Let's show up with peace. To march, to protest, to hug one another, to love all the way with peace. Do not give them what they want. Finally, we've got a lot of work that needs to happen right now to make sure that first, of course, the scene was secured as much as possible, that we were able to get the victim, now deceased, to the hospital. We've got a lot of work to do in the coming days. I want to thank our city enterprise for the work that they have done, but more importantly, what they're about to do, because this is going to be heavy and our city has been through a lot. We also know that we're prepared to do right for. Among them is our chief of police. I'll invite him up.
My name is Brian O'Hara, BRIANO''HARA. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. This morning, Minneapolis police officers received a report of federal law enforcement being involved in a deadly force incident, meaning shots had been fired. Minneapolis police officers responded to the scene. We arrived and found a woman with a gunshot wound to the head. Life-saving measures were performed at the scene, including CPR. The woman was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center, where she has since been pronounced deceased. The preliminary information that we have indicates that this woman was in her vehicle and was blocking the roadway on Portland Avenue, midway between 33rd Street and 34th Street in the city. At some point, a federal law enforcement officer approached her on foot, and the vehicle began to drive off. At least 2 shots were fired. The vehicle then crashed on the side of the roadway. Minneapolis police officers and assisted in trying to preserve the evidence that is there. We have since turned over the scene both to the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well as the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which will be conducting an investigation into this use of deadly force. I want to thank the mayor, city council president, other members of the city council, state legislators that were on the scene.
I spy on my competitors every day over coffee. Let me show you what I do. So I use this website, similarweb.com. They have a 7-day free trial.
We continue to follow that fatal ICE shooting in the city of Minneapolis. Mayor Jacob Frey now holding that press conference. Let's listen in.
Doing is causing chaos.
What's going on here? I don't
Get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, this was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible. And to the family, I'm so deeply sorry. There's nothing that I can say right now that's going to make you or your relatives or the friends of the victim feel any better. There were, I believe, 2 Minneapolis police officers that responded and were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The second was to get ICE off of the scene. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult respond in a way that creates a military
for letting me know.
occupation in our city. They want an excuse to come in and show the kind of force that will create more chaos and more despair. Let's not let them. Let's rise to this occasion. Let's show them something far more beautiful than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity of purpose, of love, and the courage of our conviction. Our conviction, to be clear, is rock solid, and it is for our neighbors, all of our neighbors. It's for people who have lived here for 80 years. It is for new immigrants who have made this city a better place. That's the kind of love that we're going to show up with right now. If you're angry, I get it. I am too. If you're feeling that kind of despair, it's understandable. Let's show them who we can be. Let's show up with peace. To march, to protest, to hug one another, to love all the way with peace. Do not give them what they want. Finally, we've got a lot of work that needs to happen right now to make sure that, first, of course, the scene was secured as much as possible, that we were able to get the victim, now deceased, to the hospital. We've got a lot of work to do in the coming days. I want to thank our city enterprise for the work that they have done, but more importantly, what they're about to do, because this is going to be heavy and our city has been through a lot. We also know that we're prepared to do